Anybody work in the TV studio? No? Are we good?
Yeah. You're on.
Well, good morning, Tide Point. Welcome to the January Member Forum. I'm getting a little confused because I'm going to be changing the name of this meeting, and I'm going to share that in a little bit. But today we're going to call it the Member Forum. So welcome and welcome to our audience that's at home. Wish you could join us here. We got we got a full house here, but we could always put down more chairs if you're interested in joining us. So got some great news for you today. We're going to be sharing some results about the resident satisfaction survey. But before I go into that, I wanted to share a little story. I started the story just a minute ago. I left the house, there's a lot of fog, I get in the car, I'm expecting a short drive to work, but it wasn't because but traffic was just backed up. The fog slowed up everything this morning. But when I was driving in, I got thinking about fog. I don't see fog, we don't see fog here a whole lot, at least I don't think so. And I got to thinking about 2023. And as we were coming out of 2022 into 2023, things were a little foggy. Coming out of COVID, I think end of 2022, I think we had a pretty big spike in the country. I don't know what happened here, but there was definitely a big spike in Texas. As a matter of fact, I was on vacation and I was overseeing the infection control program at my last community. So many people were on vacation, including me, and we probably had about 40 positive employees in our community, many of them leaders. And I got like this tidal wave of COVID activity on top of my head in the middle of vacation. Because at that point, we were doing contact tracing, trying to identify who was contacting other people and then isolating and everything else. So it was just a mess. But as we came into 2023, things were a little foggy as a result of that. But then as we headed into 2023, we started to get clarity in the country, in the States, probably here at Tide Point as well. Things started opening back up. Probably we're seeing less and less folks in masks, less quarantines, less isolations. The reason I share that is because as I'm looking at the survey, as I was going through and putting this presentation together, I think I see some of that in relation to some of the results that we got. Maybe there wasn't enough clarity coming from our leadership team in terms of the direction that we were going. Maybe we weren't getting traction around some of the deliverables that we'd like to have in place for you, such as dining or maybe some of the other departments. So, but as the year ended, I believe, and we had some transition here. Tom retired, Sandy retired, I came in, Michelle came in, some other leaders came in, Chef Brian came in. I think that put us just in a different mode, right? And so my goal today is in the midst of the fogginess to hope to provide some clarity. Not only clarity about the results, because I can only give so much perspective because you actually, were the ones filling out the surveys. So we're going to rely on you a little bit, maybe to provide some additional feedback, but clarity in terms of where we're going to be going. And I don't have the full plan for you today because we're going to really focus on results. But as we move forward, we will be sharing what our plan is in 2024 to address some of the issues and concerns and the areas of opportunity. Okay? So let's take a look at our agenda. So we're going to focus on the resident satisfaction survey first, and then right behind that, we're going to talk about the Gatehouse experience. And I have my partner here, Carrie Rodriguez from Member Services, is going to be sharing an update for you. Oddly enough, that came up on the survey. We had quite a few comments about the Gatehouse experience. Not really oddly, I say that sarcastically, because in my opinion, there's lots of opportunities around the Gatehouse experience. As a matter of fact, the first day that I was here interviewing, my Gatehouse experience was pretty bad. It was pretty good. There wasn't hardly a wave or a welcome, so the hospitality truly wasn't there. The customer service wasn't really there like I would have expected in a beautiful community like this. So I saw some opportunities. I believe you saw some opportunities as well. You actually share those thoughts on the survey with us, and that's some of what is driving our change towards just a better experience for you. So we're going to talk about the Gatehouse experience. We're going to talk about some upcoming events that are going to be taking place in February, and then we'll wrap up with some questions. Hopefully I'm not going, am I still in the window?
Yes.
Okay. So, what is the survey? Well, most of you did it. Matter of fact, 79% of members did it. And I'll share that number in just a minute, but it's an annual process sponsored by V Senior Living.
Put these blinds down so we can see this better.
Where the survey is actually online. You're able to complete it online. It's confidential participation. So whatever comments you put in there, we don't know anything, who's saying that, unless you put your name in it. What we do know is that there's just some demographics that we know is by building, could be age group or how long you've lived here. And that helps us sort of focus in on where we can create a better experience for the members that move in first, or the recent members, or the ones that are tenured and been here for a while. And really the survey is actually a significant part and helps the leadership team and our corporation and actually you identify where the areas of opportunity are versus what's working well. So once we get the survey results, we're able to compare them to V Senior Living overall. We're not going to do that today. We're going to focus specifically on Tie Point, but I have other snapshots that I can see how we are doing as a community in relation to other communities. That just gives us a benchmark. And as I shared, we had almost 80% participation, 79%, which was slightly lower than the V average. So if you took a look at the numbers, it's actually 226 members did the survey as compared to 286 members that live here. So we had an opportunity for 60 more folks to get in and do the survey. But 79 is not a bad score. Ideally, I'd like to see it in the 80s. We'll create, I think, as we look into 2024, see what opportunities there are on our part as a leadership team to help educate folks that might not feel as comfortable doing it online, and maybe some training opportunities, maybe some additional publication well ahead of the survey. And then there's what they call an engagement score that comes out. And the engagement score is essentially an average of all the positive scores, which are 4s and 5s on the survey, in relation to the 3 scores, which are neutral, in relation to the 1 and 2, which are here listed as negative, the negative experience. I don't necessarily like the word negative. I like opportunities more, but they classify it as negative. So when you take a look at the themes of the survey, and this should be no surprise, and there's probably some that are just a little bit lower hanging fruit that I didn't put up there, but the big things are, the best things about living here, the members, staff, activities, and food. So when you take a look at some of the comments and the results and the themes, that's why folks move in. They love the relationships with the members, each and every one of you just getting together with you. We see that in the dining rooms, we see it at happy hour, we see it in large events, we see it in activities, duplicate bridge, whatever it is, the concerts. So it's a thriving community. We all have a thriving community. And then the staff, there's a lot of comments about the staff. I love, that we have tenured staff here, and I have relationships with the staff, and I love the way they take care of us. And they have a heart to serve. And then the activities and the events, which are just amazing here, just amazing. And the food. So folks, want to move here, maybe I don't want to cook as much. I love coming out into the dining rooms and just connecting with folks. So the food is another big driver of why folks think this is a great place to live. And then the opportunities. So there was themes around the dining experience. We'll dig into that just a little bit. The Gatehouse experience, I just shared a little bit about that. More Gatehouse than security, but there was some mention of security. Management, I think the management team in general scored a 75%, so there's opportunities for timely follow-up from the management team. And then an overarching and general theme about communication. So we think there's opportunities there. You think there's opportunities there. So when you get into the survey itself, it rolls through a series of questions. These are the core questions that I framed up here that I'd like to share with you. And one of the big ones is, number one, overall, how would you rate the staff? So that was an overwhelming 88%. So almost 9 out of 10 folks rated that a 4 or a 5. Some folks felt, we have opportunities around some of our staff. And then some folks actually had a negative experience with them. So, but overall, that's a pretty solid score. And then, would you recommend, in recommending this facility to your friends and family, how would you rate it overall? 89%, so that's very strong. As a matter of fact, for me, that's one of the questions that I really focus in on. Because if you have members that live here that would not recommend your services, that gets concerning. But I would say that score of 90% is very in line with great communities across the country, based on my experience. Then overall, how would you rate the food? Well, about half of y'all thought it was pretty good, a 4 or 5, and the other half thought there were some opportunities. So we're going to dig into food specifically in just a minute. I would share with that, the third question, overall, how would you rate the food? That was better than last year. Even though the score's not great, there's definitely opportunities, but that's better than last year. Maybe some of you saw the new chef coming in. Saw that Brian was really getting in, focusing. He'd been here about 3 months before the survey took place. So that could have had something to do with it. Maybe there's some changes that were taking place. But I really feel that we're on the right path. We have a great chef, great culinary team, great dining experience, great leadership. So then we get into the management component, the management questions. It says management, but these are, I guess, the way that correlates is these are things that managers can drive good experiences with, leadership here. I feel safe at Tide Point. Overwhelmingly, 96% of the members felt they feel safe here at Tide Point. That's one you want to see really high. The management at Tide Point is responsive to my questions and concerns whenever a problem arises. So 7 out of 10 members felt that we do a pretty good job of that, a 4 or 5, but there's definitely opportunities with the other 30%. Now that could be a lot of different reasons. You might have called a manager and they didn't get back to you soon enough, or you might have emailed somebody and they got lost in their email bucket and for whatever reason and they didn't respond. But generally, what our goal is going to be is a 24-hour response time, unless it's an emergent situation. If it's an emergent situation, then we would ask that you call the concierge, and then we'll get emergency. We'll have that bubble up to the top to make sure we get that addressed. Tide Point feels like home, 81%.
Oh, yeah.
And then I am satisfied with the value I received for what I paid. That's a 65% score, so 6.5 out of 10. That's a sensitive score. That's a sensitive question. That sometimes we may not talk about enough because it does bring in the money question and annual increases and am I getting the value for what I'm paying on a monthly basis? And so we're not going to focus in on that today, but I think one of my goals this year would be to really have our leadership team, our cabinet members, through some of these forums that I'm going to hold, share what value that we create and what amenities that you have here that you can tie into that actually benefit your experience. Probably the one you all have been waiting for, dining. So 5 big questions in the dining world. So the dining staff is friendly. Yeah, we got a great bunch of employees in the dining rooms. Warmth, friendliness, servant hearts, above and beyond, whatever it takes. We see that not only in the dining rooms, we see it in the wine downs, we see it in special events. Not only do we also see it at the concierge, we see it throughout the community. So that's a really great score. The dining staff service is prompt. So that's 74%. So I was thinking a little bit about that. So if you could just imagine going outside of Tye Point and going into a restaurant to have dinner. You might, if you don't have a reservation, there might be a brief wait. You might sit on the bench for a little bit. They finally call you in, they sit you down, and then all of a sudden, you're sitting down, party of 4, it's a busy restaurant, no one greets you for 2 minutes. Doesn't that 2 minutes seem like 10? Because you've seen the server go back and forth, and you just, you sat down. I personally feel that. I'm just sharing my experience, but sometimes when you sit down, and even though it's just a couple minutes, sometimes those couple minutes feel like 10. Because you want to get a drink, you want to get some water, you want to order, you want to see the menu, whatever it is. So, but Kevin realizes there's opportunities there. We realize there's opportunities there. Some of that could be in relation to training, education, station sizes, big parties that come in, food's coming out slow out of the kitchen. There's so many reasons that this could slow down. And the front and the back of the house, the restaurant and the kitchen really need to have a good groove. And they need to be in lockstep. They need to have good communication, because if they don't, this is the end result of that. Kitchen, so here's an example of how that could happen. Kitchen has a party of 4, they're plating up the food, and one of the plates drops on the floor. So they have to go back, you know what I mean? So hopefully if that's happening, your server's coming out and said, hey, we had a mishap in the kitchen. That's maybe an extreme example, but sometimes those things happen. So, I am satisfied with variety of food offered. 7 out of 10, thought we did pretty good. I've heard in the dining committee that we think there's opportunities. I've seen some of the comment cards come through where residents feel there's opportunities. You might like broccoli, you like green beans, you like spinach. Spinach not cooked well enough. I mean, there's a lot of different things that come through the dining committee and those comment cards. And the chef and Kevin and the dining committee are just trying to wrap their arms around all of that and say, how do we do this better? So I know there's a big focus on that this year. But I think 7 out of 10, I think there's opportunities. We're not quite sure what that looks like. We've gotten some feedback from some of the dining committee, some of the members. I actually shared at Mingle with Mike a couple weeks ago, just some high-level thoughts about what we might be able to do between the 2 restaurants. But we're gonna have to really think through that, get some more feedback from the dining committee, present some ideas, and then we'll see how we move forward. Variety's in the eyes of the beholder, right? Some people might be good. Some people are just good with what's there. And other people have lived a lifestyle where it's just, they eat out a lot, they've eaten out a lot, or they grew up in an area that there was just a wide variety of food, and that's what they come to expect. So I feel there's opportunities to do better.
Michael, can I put this on you? I forgot to put this on you. This is just for the recording.
Uh-oh. I am satisfied with the quality and consistency of food. 65%. I might have shared this in the past, but in a former career, I was an executive chef with Marriott Hotels. And my saying was, you're only as good as your last meal. That's so true, right? I could have the best meal for you tonight, and tomorrow we have 2 cook call-outs, and we have some hiccups in the kitchen, and it just doesn't go right, and it's the end of the world. Because it's not a good meal. So our goal is really consistency. How do we get consistent meals to you daily? Not only consistent, but quality. Now, I will say that I really feel that you got a great executive chef here. I work with a few executive chefs, and Brian is very knowledgeable, great experiences, a great understanding of culinary techniques and how to execute them, a great understanding of how to put menus together. I didn't hear much feedback from the wine down last night, but okay, we got a couple thumbs up, a few thumbs up. So yeah, so we consistently hear that from members. The wine down is really good. And then just a couple of days ago, I saw some comment cards come through, well, the food was cold. And that's what really gets me, because that, for me, is like, that's core deliverables. You know, hot food hot, cold food cold, hot plate, cold plate, you know, front and back of the house should be on the same wavelength. You get the food out of the kitchen. That's what frustrates me, is when I see those things, because I know we're better than that. And then over the last year, positive progress has been made related to the dining in the community. So almost 70%. I'm going to embellish a little bit. We'll take 70, but 67. That's pretty good. It's not where I would like it to be. I would like that to be 100%. I'm realistic, knowing that we're not going to get 100% there, but that score is better than most of the other big communities. Some of that is probably related to Brian and the culinary team, and Kevin and Brian's partnership. I will share before we move on that I really feel that Kevin, Brian, and the dining committee are going to bring you really a higher level of dining this year. There's a commitment from the front and the back of the house here with our employees and our leadership team, and in partnership with the dining committee, there's going to be some really nice things. And then there's some additional services. Questions you answered around additional services. I'm satisfied with maintenance, 86%. That's very strong. It's one of the stronger scores I've seen, actually, in any of the communities I work. Usually you see that right around 80. And I'm satisfied with the responsiveness to my maintenance request. That's 86%. So I don't know if many of you saw the message I sent out in relation to Mingle with Mike, just an update that was in your cubby or your mailbox. One of the areas that I addressed after talking to Quentin, after some feedback from one of the members, was how do we do this better? Because I don't know if really members understand what's happening behind the scenes. So hopefully that provided some clarity on the end when you submit a maintenance request through the app. There's obviously, you can call it in, and there might be some gaps there, but I think that's a step in the right direction in helping you understand what happens behind the scenes and what the team is doing to ensure that the process is moving along. I'm satisfied with the services I've received at the Wellness Center. So 71%. Wellness Centers, Monday through Friday operation, got some nurses to attend to the members' needs. I'm talking with Carrie and Sherry in the Wellness Center. I know they identified some opportunities early on where they can expand hours. They're going to be doing some educational seminars so the members truly understand some of the services that they can provide. And if there's any feedback that you could share through the Lifestyle Committee, Membership Committee, and Lifestyle Committee, then we would really appreciate that. I'm satisfied with accounting accuracy, 81%. So when Michelle got these results in finance, the accounting department, she was the first one to put together action plans. I mean, I think I might have had them the next day. So she's really in tune with the experience that you all have with the finance team. And she's really committed to driving better results for you in terms of accuracy. So if you do have a problem, reach out to her so she can get that information. She can make whatever corrections, but she can also share that with her team so there's a better experience for you. I'm satisfied with housekeeping, 78%. Many of you may know Rhonda. Poor Rhonda. I talk to her every week. We have a chat just about operations, and she was just scratching her head. I know we got to do better, but I just need to get more information. So if you have any feedback for Rhonda, you can share that through the maintenance committee. They can get it to, or Rhonda attends that committee meeting. But she really would like to get feedback in terms of how we can do it better. I've heard a couple comments. Well, they need more time, so maybe that's part of the challenge. Maybe it's the individual themselves, the housekeeper themselves, that's not detail oriented, but she definitely wants to do better in that category. And then this whole area here really focuses more on the lifestyle experience. And Joy's with us, and she was one of the first ones to have action plans thought through about how she wants to address this as well. But you can see these scores are low 80s to high 70s for the most part when you go 6 through 9. And these all fall under lifestyles. I am satisfied with the activities, 83%. And then number 7 was, I believe, a new question. New question this year. Lifestyle activities of interest to me are available, or I feel empowered to create my own. So I think the empowered word was put out there in 2023, where members may not have seen that in the past. But 3 out of 4 residents feel that they are empowered to be able to make positive changes in relation to the schedule of activities. Transportation options to where I need to go are available when I need them. I think there's probably a lot of gray in there in that question. Is that in relation to just our transportation, or is that just in relation to us providing additional options to you? So I know that Joy is working with her team. I will share that the group of guys that we have working here in transportation are top-notch.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's definitely one of the strongest transportation teams I've worked with. So it's truly a blessing to have those guys on our team, ensuring that you're getting where you need to go and you're getting there safely and back home safely. But if there's any thoughts around that, we'd love to hear it. I was talking to one of the drivers this morning. I'm not going to share his name, and I was just kidding around with him. I says, I got to get a ride to Texas. His first response is, when do you want to go? He didn't say, no, we don't do Texas. So, I mean, there's an attitude of how do we get it done for you, which is really good. He then went on to say, I don't not only drive here, but I also drive at Palmetto Dunes, and I also drive up with a limo service. So this guy drives all the time. So, yeah, I think the guys, in that department really took this to heart. They shared a lot of feedback with Joy, because they really would like to see the score higher. They know that they're better than this. I am satisfied with the quality of services provided by concierge front desk personnel. If it was any better, it'd be 100%.
Oh, that's good.
It's a great bunch of folks that work at the desk. Yeah, and they do a lot. I was manager on duty one day. It was maybe about a month ago. We had a lot of rain that weekend. Particularly, I think it was a Sunday I was here, and we had leaks in the rotunda, and then everybody was calling in. It started like 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody started calling for deliveries, and I needed to talk to her to see how I could get a hold of the maintenance guy. And I literally had to stand there for about 5 minutes before I could get a word in, because there was this phone call after phone call. So they're very busy. We're looking at options, by the way, in terms of how we can get some additional resources there at the concierge desk to support that team to help with to-go orders. So that's actually the resident satisfaction survey. So at the end of the presentation, I'm going to open it up for comments and see if you have any additional feedback. Generally, the survey comes out right around October 2024. Matter of fact, I think I was here maybe 2 weeks. I started on September 26th, I believe it was. Just here a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden the survey was here. So, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for us. We'd love to hear the feedback. We'd love to see the results. Because I believe, and hopefully you see this already, that our leadership team and our employees are really committed to providing you a great service. So I'm gonna wrap up this section, and I'm gonna hand the mic over to Carrie and let her talk about Gatehouse. Does she need this?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. All right, so we're going to talk about Gatehouse operations. So some of you had strong opinions in the survey, and I greatly appreciate that. Anytime you have opinions, my door is always open. You can come and share. I think that's the way that we get better. We can't fix issues that we don't know about. So some of the updates that we have for our Gatehouse operations specifically. Our existing contract with Coastal Security to staff our gatehouse has been terminated, which means that we are going to be hiring security officers in-house who are going to be Tide Point employees. So our anticipated start date for in-house staff is going to be sometime in February. So it's going to be rolling around here pretty quickly since today's, what, the 24th? 25th? All right, let's talk about why we're making this change for our gatehouse. We want to enhance member, visitor, and employee experience so that each of you get a good quality experience and it's the same for everybody. We want to be able to better manage and deliver consistent hospitality. And I think that's very important that we build relationships with you all and also your families and your visitors and any other guests that might be coming through our gate. We want to ensure that everyone who comes to the gate receives excellent customer service. I think that's our number one goal. This is what you all should be able to expect moving forward. You're going to see new uniforms. So new people, new uniforms, new attentive, smiling faces of new staff who have been hand-selected by myself and a handful of other people who work here at Tide Point. We're also going to have more control over who enters our community. So we'll be a little bit more strict on passes. So we ask that you be mindful and make sure that any visitor or guest or contractor that you have coming in, that you make sure to call in your passes in advance. Also, again, building those relationships, leaving a lasting positive impression. I just ask that each of you, as we make this transition and build a new team that's going to be here at Tide Point, I just ask that you all stop at the gate and say hi, introduce yourselves so that they get to know you and know who you are. And I ask that you ask your families to do the same so that they can get to know your family and your friends as well. There is a stop sign at the gate. So stop, say hi, introduce yourself, and I think that's going to build a much better relationship between our team and our membership. All right. And then you'll be able to have people who will welcome you home whenever you've been gone. So that's our goal.
Thank you, Carrie. So Carrie has a training program that she's going to be, sharing with the team. She's going to be doing some additional training with them, resetting expectations. I don't know about you, but recently the experience has been pretty flat out there. And maybe that's an understatement. Yeah, maybe that's an understatement. So this is the face of the community, in my opinion. So whenever you come in, your family comes in, a guest comes in, vendor, prospective member, employee, we should be out there and we should at least be greeting with a warm, friendly hello, how you doing today? And at a minimum, that should be what's taking place. And then there's a safety component, ensuring that passes are properly given out and that they're on the car and we know who's here at the community. So I'm really, really excited about this change. I know it's a big deliverable for our team because there's so many variables involved. One, you got the staffing component. Two, if we have somebody that's sick, then how are we going to backfill that position? How are we going to get them trained? Where are we going to pull them from? What additional resources are we going to have in place? So there's a lot of variables involved. It's another level of leadership management from Carrie. But I would share that we met a couple potential candidates for supervisors. The ones that we've met are actually former police chiefs. So you're getting some folks, at least on the day shift, that know what they're doing. But these are police chiefs that have worked in small towns. So they know, and this is a small town. We live in a small town. So they understand the concept that we're trying to create out there. And both the individuals that we interviewed, we can only select one, but both of them were just really knowledgeable, but really had a focus on hospitality and customer service. And really want to engage with you, but ultimately at the core, they want to ensure that you have a safe place to live. So I'm super excited about those gentlemen. Carrie's extended an offer to one, and hopefully that gentleman's accepted. Guess where they're from? Up north. Yeah. Did you say New Jersey?
Ohio.
One of them, I think, is from that area. New York and Connecticut. Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Yeah, they're from up north. But one of them's already bought a house down here. As a matter of fact, his wife's already down here. She's a nurse and she works in Savannah. The other individual has been coming down here for years. So they're very familiar with the area. This is a little bit softer role for them because they're not beating the streets, so to speak, and not leading a team of patrol officers and investigations and stuff. But they have that knowledge, and that's what we really like. So you're going to have some folks at the gatehouse with some good policing experience, and they understand what needs to take place. So super excited about that. Yeah.
Just to follow up on something Michael had mentioned earlier, the training program that we're going to be implementing for our new gate officers is similar to the one that we implemented at the concierge desk and at our fitness center, which obviously you saw the scores, it was 97%. So I have high expectations, and I think you all should too. So any feedback, please. My door is always open.
Okay, so we got a couple announcements, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So I mentioned early on that we're going to be taking a look at the name of this event that's taking place right now, which is called the Member Forum. And I would actually like to change the name to the Member Town Hall Meeting. Not a big thing. I think I like the way it resonates. I think this is what it's really all about. So, Member Town Hall Meetings, what it's going to be, starting in February. I think we have it on the calendar as a Member Town Hall. So just so there's no confusion. And then I got some other announcements. Mingle with Mike. So if you didn't get a chance to come in and join us for coffee and just a chat and conversation, that was earlier in January. We're going to have another Mingle with Mike. Generally, I would like to hold them on the second Thursday of the month, but because we have some pre-existing events that are taking place on the second Thursday of the month in February, we're moving that to the first Thursday, which is going to be February 1st. And I think we do that for February and March, and then in April we get into a rhythm. It's going to be the second Thursday of the month throughout the rest of the year. So February 1st, Thursday, 10 o'clock. If you're interested in coming in and have some coffee and chatting, I'd love to see you. And then the February Town Hall meeting is going to be February 22nd at 10 o'clock, which is going to be similar to this meeting. So with that, we can open it up to questions. And Carrie, I don't know if you want to go around with the mic.
Yes.
So is anybody who has the first question?
What happens when somebody does not stop at the guardhouse but comes through with an AR-15 in the back seat?
That's a pretty intense question.
It happens all the time, all across the country.
Yeah, I think 911, alert the concierge that we have an emergency situation. That then goes out to our leadership team. As quickly as things move, I don't know if we're going to get an alert media out that quickly, but we would first focus on any members that are in this area and getting them into a safe place, the safest that we can, whether it's back into their apartment. We'd obviously try to be monitoring where that individual's going so we can isolate that individual, that area, so we can ensure the police are focusing in that area. But those things happen so quickly, unexpectedly. We don't train a whole lot for that, but it is part of our training.
It's gonna be definitely part of the training.
Well,
It's an annual training
Yeah.
that our
Yeah.
employees take. It's called
Active shooter.
Armed intruder.
And you know, we had an active shooter training. I don't know if any of you were here. It was probably about 3 years ago for our members. And it was kind of like a 2-hour. We had a Beaufort County police officer that came and did it. And I would like to bring that back if y'all are comfortable with it. We had some members that were not comfortable with it. But that's a great idea.
What, is there a cost difference in a contract security versus an in-house security?
there is. So the proposal that we got for 2024 for the gatehouse services was about almost 20%, 20 to 25% more than we're currently paying. So our goal was to hold what we paid in 2023 flat for 2024 by bringing that in-house. So it wasn't necessarily an increase for the community, but at least we're holding it flat.
I just wanted to comment that on your survey, the impressive thing to me was to look at the negative column too. You know, a lot of people were kind of undecided, or they weren't positive, but they were undecided. But in the negative column, it was only like 1 to 2%. So I think that's the other thing to keep a tab on. Some of us weren't that clear on the question, or exactly, we'd only been here a couple of years, maybe we hadn't decided on some things. So I think that's the other thing. Very few of us are really negative about anything.
Well, I love that comment because that is so true. Are you a data analyst?
She's a doctor.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's good. That's a good observation. So yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of members here that are really very displeased. So when I take a look at that, I think the real opportunity is those folks that are right in the middle. And what are we missing? Probably in the details. It could be consistency. It could be around consistent staffing, delivery of services, communication. It could be around communication. Because you had just mentioned maybe clarity around some of the questions. So that is a good observation. We also, like I'm sorry, excuse me, just for employee surveys, we do this. We don't see a lot of negative, but we sometimes see folks in the middle. So it's like, what are we missing there? Is it one-on-one relationships with their manager? Is it trust with their manager? Those kind of things.
I have a little different question. I have heard recently that when the bar's refurbishment is complete, that Richard will no longer be our bartender.
I have not heard that. Yeah, the question was when. I have not heard that. That could be just some conversation amongst the staff. Leslie personally shared that with somebody, but I haven't heard that.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Not with me. He said he wasn't. I asked him to point out, because at one point I heard the rumor. He said, oh, no, I'm not retiring.
Okay, so we yeah.
So 50-50 chance.
You know, you're looking at some of those neutral responses. I think that there are several areas perhaps that people haven't used the services. I'm thinking wellness and transportation. And I think they might be a high percentage of people just say, you know, I don't know. And so that maybe a way to next time around sort of slice and dice that a little bit more to see if they have used the service. If they haven't used it, then it shouldn't be factored in.
Right. I don't know if there's an option for NA, but we can explore that. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
On your two mingle with bikes, you schedule them in the club room.
I thought the club room was closed in February.
They're in the ballroom, I
Now, I
think.
believe we have them, the question was with the Mingle with Mike, they're scheduled in the ballroom, but the ballroom's closed.
The club room. No,
They're in the ballroom, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I might have initially thought that I was gonna do them in the club room, but then we chose the ballroom, not knowing what kind of turnout we'd have. So, hold on. She's gonna bring the mic.
Hendrik has had a couple of accidents that seem to always be on the weekend. And even though I have a boutique doctor, he's not going to come or receive us if we feel. I have felt that maybe there could be one person on guard on the weekends where we could call instead of immediately to have call 911. Maybe I'm demanding, but the weekend is long when it starts on Friday night and you're not quite sure whether you're doing the right thing.
Carrie, would you like to take that?
So we do have our managers on duty who are here on the weekends. In the event that you need some assistance, you can always call and have the manager on duty. I think that if it's a true emergency, instead of waiting until Monday, you would rather be safe than sorry. And whether that's going to a local urgent care, or if it's more serious, calling 911. 911 coming to your home and doing an assessment, just checking you out and making sure you're okay, there's no charge for that. For them to come to your home and help pick you up off the floor, there's no charge for that. So definitely utilize those services.
Good, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you shared that you have a boutique doctor, so you can always call that, but I think the urgent cares are probably your, unless it's a true 911, is probably your best bet on the weekends.
I have a question regarding activities. Will there be more long-time learning scheduled for this coming year?
yes, they'll start in February. So we have, I don't know the total, your tide will be coming out this afternoon, but I think there's at least 10 in February and maybe a little bit less than that in March. It runs through the second week of March. Yes.
On a positive note, thank you for getting the walkers brought into the ballroom or into the pool room during the dining hours. It looks a lot nicer out in the hallways.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Can I add another thank you? I thought that sheet that we got yesterday with your responses to the last meeting was outstanding. I have yet to see that quicker response. And in some cases, you said no. Okay, fine, at least we know. I think it was terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.
Two questions, Mike. Will everybody be fired at the gate, or there are a couple of, one, for example, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday night guy is very responsive and does come out to say hello, seems always to be proactive. Or is the whole staff changing, or can you take any one or two that are particularly good and meld them into the new team?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Carrie's done a really good job of identifying some of the individuals that currently work down there that will be able to do a good job for us. So yes, you are going to be able to retain some of those employees, the coastal employees, and they're going to be hired as the employees. And I believe the one on the evenings and the weekend is going to be there.
And the other question is, and very wisely, you said when there's an emergency, call the concierge, but sometimes the concierge doesn't answer. And I pass the desk and I say, oh, do you want that for the dressing? And oh, do you want green beans? And
And I'm thinking, is it something more where you have to say, hold please, because it could be an emergency coming in. Sometimes the phone just rings and rings. And I know they have a very difficult job. How do you handle when they just don't answer?
We actually have a 4-ring policy. I don't know if some of you all, when you're on the phone, you hear the other phone ringing. So if we do not pick up that first phone call within 4 rings, it rolls over to the secondary phone. If I'm available, I actually have the ability to answer those calls myself, but it's kind of a reminder to our staff, I need to put this person on hold and go grab the other one. And we have been, actually, that was probably the 3% that was in the neutral to negative category for the concierge was because of the long ring times. So we have addressed that recently in our most recent meeting, and we're going to continue to work to improve that.
We're also taking a look at some other options. So part of the challenge is just the volume of calls that come into the concierge. So we're actually, I think today is our second or third meeting where we're going to be taking a look at what additional resources do we need, maybe during specific times that help the concierge out when to-go orders are coming in. Is there another way that we can have members put in to-go orders? We've been taking a look at the app. We haven't fully vetted that through because it can be difficult for some, the way it's set up. And then maybe there's even another way that we could get a menu out in advance and suggest to members, hey, here's a menu for the week. Take a look at the menu, and you can do it this way as well. Just circle what you want, give it back to us. That's an option that we're looking at, just to take some pressure off the concierge.
Ms. Corda made a good comment. This past week, you guys have probably heard some crackling on the phone, and I want to let you all know that we're working as quickly as possible to get that resolved as well. So thank you all for hanging in there with us and working with us while we work through that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending. Thanks for your feedback. Have a great day.